you're not.
I've been negotiating with the police about the Turkish Heathrow. They were doing that construction. Suddenly, everything went black. Explosions. And I found my way to a room on the balcony. Extremely quite long balcony I found. Got a forward from them much. But I was in a complete panic.
Battle rồi có
Not thinking straight.
battle rồi it's only 8 degrees Celsius.
How?
It's a jump I thought you
It was bloody hot one day and I was freezing cold.
Well, I had to stay flat on the balcony, although I could see an easy route escape to my right hand side. Every time I tried to do that, they tried to shoot me and stay flat. Eventually they said, look to your left, and there was a frogman across on another balcony, crawling across. And that's what I suppose I was living on my balcony, so it was like a cocktail flagpole and back into the empty, so I thought it was total madness. It was all burning on stuff, and all their clothes were burning. And then through a room, I believe I was sitting over bodies, onto the stairway, and down with other hostages. The SAS were, I didn't know it was the SAS, no idea at the time, these men, were literally throwing us out without any ceremony at all. Girls were being chopped into each other and out onto the back wall and then thrust on my face and tied up with a cable tie.
So it's certainly a route to survival, and there's much more to say on that. And your particular story, thank you for going back and giving us some of your recollections there, because I think what's coming out here, and especially because of how you come at this story, Ben, is the SAS and what we didn't know, what we do know, and this sort of superhero status.
Up until this moment, the SAS was virtually unknown in New Zealand. I mean, 99% of people have never heard of the SAS. And overnight, they became a celebrity organisation. They became incredibly famous. Foreign governments began trying to borrow the SAS for hostage training. That they were thrust into the limelight
right?
in a way that some in the regiment
right?
still find difficult, because ever afterwards they have wrestled, I think, between the tension between their celebrity status and the need for secrecy. Special operations only work if they are done in the shadows, and the SAS was no longer in the shadows. They became a household word. As John le Carré put it, they were sort of action man personified as they abseiled down the embassy. But again, that's a very simple take on what they were. Actually, historical museums, they all had their own stories, just like hospitals, just like cinema. And Sim is far too modest to say this, but he's not only an incredibly great man, he's one of the and throughout this experience, he was taking what was going on. As he is here, he's exactly as strong inside the problem as he's going bad, and he was so lucky to have access to that terrible material, which I think really is magic.
Sim, I want to come back to you. Is there something you want to add on this view? Again, you can't underestimate how many times we go back to the story. Like you say,
Yes, it's I get really frustrated when people come back from crazy hospital, the dates and stuff like that. I'm a bit of a stickler for accuracy, and although I have to go on for research and build, etc., I'd rather do it to less
Australia in the 20 years.
So let's talk to the former England T20 World Cup winner Ryan Snowden. Good morning, Ryan. You took more than 1,000 career wickets. In your view, what sort of impact can Travis Head have on Sam Curry?
Well, on the impact, I would say it had a massive impact in terms of the game situation and how engaged Australia has to be mental. As England lost to Australia by 28 runs, I do think that was a game changer. I think on Sam Curry himself, personally, it's one of those things I think we always now find very difficult. You know, small boundaries, flat sides, all very difficult.
Well, do you want that cheesy toast to be our breakfast every day?
And make sure that you're switched on and you're ready to go for the next game. So sometimes these things do happen, so you've got to come back stronger and 5-year bowling the next time you go.
England did manage to change some momentum briefly with some spin, but they couldn't come to it on this big one.
No, I thought the mid-order period can be very good in T20 in terms of batting and bowling. You know, who can get top of the spin or the medium pace, or the guys that can take wickets and nullify the opposition or the batting attack. So I thought England did pretty well, but they didn't quite go on, did they? And I think Australia had all the answers. I think if you look at, you know, with the debutants, England looked just a little bit behind. You know, Australia are a tough, fantastic short format team. You know, they're very accomplished as a team. So it was a tough day for England, I would say, but you know, it's the first game and they've got to play better.
Things clearly do go up a notch when Australia are in town. You mentioned the debutants, so 3 for England. What's your take on what the side as a whole are capable of, with them included? And crucially, where do they need to improve?
I think, you know, it is a very accomplished side. You've got some young talented cricketers. You know, Will Jacks is phenomenal. Jordan Cox has done very, very well, been really consistent. Jacob Beckham had a wonderful 100. He's still a very young man. The only thing, Jamie Overton is a fantastic all-round cricketer. He's genuinely high 90s, you know, all-rounder. Hits the ball many, many miles. But I was surprised because he can't bowl. And I think maybe England are missing someone like an all-rounder or another bowler or another batter just to strengthen either side of the England team. But I think all in all, look, first game, it's not always easy playing against quality opposition.
Ryan Sidebottom, many thanks. And just one final story in tennis. Debutant Billy Harrison, veteran Dan Evans ensured Britain's quest to reach the Davis Cup knockout stages started strongly. Harris and Evans won their singles matches, but the British team did lose the doubles. The next ties against Argentina in Group D tomorrow.
Gary Simon, straight out of Group C. Here's Kim Cattrall.
Group D tomorrow.
Got to convince Congress to give him an open checkbook now.
A new audio drama telling the history of the CIA from the inside out.
Other demonstrations are not been organized by Iranians. I can say that.
Now.
Starring Ed Harris and me, Kim Cattrall. Do you just want to hear what you want to hear? Or are you asking for a professional assessment from CIA's senior female analyst of estimated probabilities? Central Intelligence on Radio 4 and BBC Sounds. Just got a cable from Washington. We can't stay here. It starts tomorrow at 2:15.
Sure. A quick look at the weather. Today will be cool and breezy, sunny spells and scattered showers. The showers may be heavy across the south in the afternoon, with the risk of thunder and showers by the east by the evening.
You are listening to Today on Radio. I'm Alright. And Emma Clark. It is expected to be cloudy tonight and extended to 26
What's the news?
United Nations has said Israel must stop what he called dramatic violations of international humanitarian law. Antonio Guterres was speaking after the UN said 6 refugee agency staff were among people killed in an airstrike on a school housing displaced people in Gaza yesterday. Israel said it was targeting Hamas fighters. Data centres in the UK are to be added to a list of critical national infrastructure alongside the emergency services and financial animal rights companies accused the district defence of wasting taxpayers' money on the ceremonial bearskin caps worn by soldiers outside Buckingham Palace. The ETN says it has obtained figures showing that the cost of each black cap, for which one bear is needed, is now £2,000.
What?
ETN is calling for a fake that to be used.
Black cap.
21 minutes.
嗰啲咩？
In
嗰啲
what
帽
has
啊
been described as one
I
of
don't
the
know.
longest disguises of
2,000
British
pounds?
criminal history, Oliver Campbell, a man with severe learning difficulties, who served for life for the murder of a shopkeeper
Was it
3
back cap? I
decades
don't know.
ago, has
Maybe
all
wrong.
his convictions quashed.
But something they use.
The fight
2,000
to
pounds.
clear his name has taken 34 years. But what does this case tell us about the way justice treats vulnerable people? And have lessons been learned? Glyn Maddox, KC, is Oliver Campbell's solicitor. Good morning.
Good morning, Emma.
I'm going to
Thank
say
you so much for being with us. And I should say in a moment I'll be able to talk to Mary Pryor as well, KC,
Oh,
chair of
the
the
Pryor.
Criminal Bar Association, and head of the criminal team at 26 Crime. But
Okay.
just to say State media are presenting the pardon as proof of a caring, humane leader. There's another election due next year, so it is possible Lukashenko's looking to soften his image. Others think he's signaling to the West that he wants to engage. The chances of big-name prisoners like Maria Kolesnikova getting out look slim, but her sister saw Russia's big prisoner swap with Western countries last month, and that gave her some hope.
What we saw is that you can negotiate during the war, or whole war. You can negotiate with people you name terrorists, yes, or dictators, and everything is possible.
Dmitry thinks about Maria Kolesnikova a lot. She became hugely popular during the 2020 protests, but Dmitry knows how in prison political detainees are singled out for extra punishment. And even though he's out now, he admits he jumps at every noise, terrified the police are coming for him again to lock him up again. You understand that you've done nothing wrong and they shouldn't be coming for you, but you can't tell your heart that, Dmitry says. It is the brutal Belarus of today, says he quotes, and your heart is afraid. It's 10:09. Today, the aid worker Simon boasts what he's accomplished. A beginner's guide to dying. He, as predicted, is not here to see this day, but his words live on and continue to inspire as they did in the final months of his life after his articles about how to live in his local newspaper, the Jersey Evening Post, went viral. But his wife, Aurelie Burns, is here, and she spoke to me on yesterday's programme about what life has been like since losing Simon in the summer, and how it has been sharing her husband with so many people around the world. Many of you have been in touch with the back of our conversation yesterday, and also when I first interviewed Simon in July, in what ended up being his final broadcast interview, because 11 days later, he died. Yesterday, this was how Aurelie described watching her husband go towards death.
I often felt lonely even before his death, in the sense that he was pulling away a bit. I think he might have done it naturally, but with an effort to actually gently free me, away from him. And as sad as it is, I feel like very grateful in the way that we managed to discuss everything for months, but also have normal days.
Listening to that again is that one of the listeners, Denise, who did get in touch after hearing that conversation yesterday. Good morning.
Good morning, Emma.
I understand you yourself were receiving treatment, chemotherapy yesterday.
Yes, I had my second treatment. I first heard Simon's interview in July, and I was actually not needing treatment, but knew it was on its way after over a year. And to hear his voice again the day I was going for treatment seemed really powerful and really helpful.
Oh, well, I'm happy to hear that, and I hope it went as okay as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, if I can say it, put it like that. Because I know from your messages, having had a look at getting in touch, and this is why it's always brilliant to be able to hear from you, our listeners, it's what spoke to you was about how he talked about the guilt he felt towards his family, and then hearing orally yesterday, picked up on how it was for her on this side of things.
Yes, I think I felt when I got my diagnosis, because I didn't need any treatment, I had a year to get ready for it, and it just gave me, Simon's enjoying the smallest things, enjoying the sunshine, enjoying walking the dog, all those things suddenly became so much more powerful and so much more important, and I tried to share that with family and friends, and I think I also know it's not that I'm just putting on a brave face, but I feel that they can't see, they're looking into my future and the journey and not being without me, and I'm feeling in the now, and things are good. I am really lucky. Treatment is not as bad as what first intended. I mean, initially it was going to be a lot sooner, and I thought I had a much shorter lifespan. At the moment, it looks a lot more hopeful, and it's handling that guilt that you meet explain to your family, they turn up for a coffee or something, and you have to give them this worst message and land it with them, and you can't do anything to actually say, actually, it's not so bad, let's enjoy the now, because now is what we've got, and it's really special.
Was there anything that you learned from what Aurelie had to say as well?
Yes, it was interesting hearing that Simon chose to withdraw a bit, and that he made the most of everything right to the end. And I also kind of thought how important that brilliant palliative care was, because that makes such a difference. That kind of gives me something to, I know this journey isn't going to be great, and palliative care is something we'll talk about, but I know the hospices are so amazing, and the palliative care nurses are so amazing, and just hearing Simon's story of that, I remember him talking about muscadet and morphine, and at the moment I'm completely off alcohol, but I kind of thought, there's brighter side, there's something
potentially. Well, I wish you all the best for it. I know your cancer, not to go into too much real personal information, had been there and then came up again, and this is why now you've got to have the treatment. But how fascinating to hear what spoke to you, and also how it was to help potentially with some of those conversations with your family. Denise, we wish you all the best here with today's programme. Thank you for being in touch.
Thank you.
5 minutes to 9. One of the big winners at the National Television Awards last night was ITV's Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. It chronicled, of course, the heroic struggle for justice by postmasters against the Post Office after the Horizon IT scandal. Mr. Bates versus the Post Office was voted Best New Drama. Tony Jones won Best Drama Performance for playing the title role, Mr. Bates. The programme also received a Special Impact Award, with one of the real Post Office scandal victims using the acceptance speech to criticise the support offered by the new government. Joe Hamilton went on stage and said, "What I'd like you to know is I went to Westminster."
I think there was this really weird relationship that I had with it, but then conversely then looking backwards, because I think looking back is so helpful when you want to look forward. I'm a third generation, I'm of Jamaican heritage, and my family sort of came over during the Windrush generation. And obviously that wasn't a compulsory conscription if you think just beforehand with World War II. I mean, you've got thousands of Caribbean soldiers who fought in that war on a voluntary basis and did have that pride and did want to contribute. And so it felt so bizarre being in a place now where, despite the steep history of imperialism that we need to reckon with, this push for reparations and all of this work, at that time we weren't forcing people into conscription from all of these different lands that we've, I guess, imposed ourselves on, and yet today we're telling our young people that they need to preserve their futures and therefore engage in compulsory national service.
That's certainly a strong point. Now, what I want to do, this is going to be a question for both of you. I want you to imagine this government starts getting interested in these ideas. Because sometimes it's the messenger that puts us off.
I'll ask you first. They set up a special commission to look at this, and having heard some of the things Amira has said, what do you think the important components of this are going to be? And then we're going to ask Amira the same question.
I think the rollout of this, how you communicate it, is fundamental, and I don't think we got it right, if I'm honest. I would love to have been involved in it when it was rolled out during the election. It surprised me when it was then suddenly announced, given I'd written papers on this. But wider to that, I would say that we missed an opportunity in the election campaign itself to spell out the wider security picture, where we're heading, because you need to take the nation with you. If you end up putting people off, then this simply is not going to work, because you'll have too many people just saying no thank you. So the starting point is the bigger picture, is recognizing where we're going, where the world is going, what do we need to do to prepare, and that requires looking at various options, of which this is one potential. And I agree that, maybe I'm very happy to look at others as well. But history shows, and go back to the First and Second World War, people volunteered initially because they knew the threat was there. It was imminent. They could see it every single day. Now, we're conscious there is a threat. A war is raging in Europe at the moment. It's likely to get much, much worse, I'm afraid, because of the geopolitics for the next few months and so forth. What we're seeing in the Middle East could easily then flare up, and then where China is seeking to pursue its own interpretation of global order. Put these all together, and it does require some grown-up thinking about where Britain stands and what we're going to do. I make the case, though, that we can persuade people by saying, yes, of course you want more money for schools, hospitals, and like I said before, but if our economy is affected by the demise in global security, which it will do because they're symbiotic economies, then it's up to us to then defend our economy by having strengthened security. Better to do that. I'm afraid, this is why we need to rekindle our Cold War statecraft skills, if you like, into recognizing this bigger picture. We've become pretty relaxed since the end of the Cold War, and errant nations are now choosing to pursue a very different interpretation of where our world should go. It's going to get dangerous.
Yeah. Okay, so that's where you think we have to be very clear about the dangers, and you think that will then change how people think about things. Amira, given what you've heard, and you say you're invited to join this commission, and we've got very different positions. What would you want to say to them?
I think from the young perspective, I think what I would want to be saying is how can we upskill ourselves to build a more peaceful world? And I think that there are other routes to doing that. I also think we need to engage the idea that a lot of the conflict that we see across the world, we are partially responsible as Britain with our history. We need to recognize, you mentioned the Middle East, you mentioned other conflicts that we've seen that continue to this day. And Britain needs to engage with its history and how it can play a role in reducing the deaths that we see for innocent lives that there's work that can be done in terms of quality, in terms of diplomacy, in terms of technological advancements, multiple different ways we can prevent more.
I think what we're seeing is fundamentally different points of view. What's being said clearly by Tomas is why it's becoming more dangerous, and I think we're also maybe there are things we can do to make it less dangerous. And that might take a very long conversation, and we're only just beginning.
Well, let me take where Gabrielle ended up with you there. Nice listening, and I think we're very dedicated into your own argument. But I'd really like you to try to engage a bit in the idea of being the other person, putting yourself in the other person's shoes. So Tobias, you're asking what would it take to change your mind or bring you closer to the newest position?
I am sympathetic, there's no doubt about it. I can understand that anybody who's 18, or university, whatever, would say, why are we having to take the burden on looking after the problems that are now facing the nation? And to some degree, I can sympathize with that and actually say it shouldn't just be that age, because if you are a kind of technician that will require, you won't be able to have it until you're 18, you'll probably have it when you're 25, 26. 20-year-olds suddenly find themselves on any front line. Is that
But you didn't answer my question. Young, guys that would have felt a little closer to what you always do. I mean, what I'm trying to test here is a little bit about the journey through life that you've taken as well as the journey through music you were exploring.
I've always felt that Britain's strength, hard power is important. I was at university, I did the Oxford Training Corps, the UTC, that led me to join the army. So potentially, directly to your question itself, I'd like to think that I'm open-minded and willing enough to say, absolutely right, we can't, I don't purport to have all the solutions. I'm an ideas person, but I also am a strategist. I try and look 4 or 5 chapters ahead as to where a world's going, not just in the next 24, 48 hours of what the project often does. And I am concerned, but open-minded to say, let's look at other ways of trying to recognize that we do need to increase our resilience and our security.
So Tobias is maybe a strength through security duties there, and more mentality, we could perhaps address these things in better ways, or other ways to do this without going down that organisational system. Ruth, what would change your mind? Can you imagine as you many flashpoints that we see tragically in the news all around us, that something could change your mind?
What I really do empathise with is the difficult position that those people are in, right? In that, there are challenges, there is more and on that part, solutions that are found, and I appreciate Tobias has highlighted that there are multiple ways that they do look at and look through to try and resolve this challenge. It's just a quick challenge to you. What do people do to volunteer if you have a sense of very generously time and effort volunteer to yourself, but what isn't it Tobias? One of the reasons you have compulsions is that you get enough people to do it if you don't.
I think it's really interesting because, I think that there was a study done not too long ago by the Community Engagement Partnership with young people who are most likely to volunteer out of all people in our society. I want to completely dismantle this idea that young people don't volunteer. I don't think that is where the issue is. What we do need to engage with, perhaps, is the fact that in terms of people, in terms of military conscription, we have seen that number go down, right? So I think we need to almost draw a line between the threats and what this scheme and proposal is actually trying to tackle versus an interest in volunteering, in young people volunteering. Anything else could be able to we asked the questions and then heard that quick debate. I mean, it was quite a fun red line, I felt, that our two guests might teach each other. Were not. Where would you go and practice just the bits you did?
I think the red lines are extremely clear, and that can be very useful because these are, as I see about things people deeply care about. You are very clear that you want us to think about a world where we're thinking about these causes of prevention and not bias is clear that this is where we are and this is where we are and we have to think about this. However, within the space of your difference, there is still, I think, an outer circle in which I think you can find something like that. And I think that might be this complete about not what we can do for ourselves, what we can do for others. I think that is shared. And if we then put that into the picture and we think about security, I actually think that there will be some areas in which we can have a creative conversation.
Thank you very much. And that is it for this edition of Across the Red Line. And that is in our current run. You can catch the others and hear all of our other editions by heading over to BBC Sounds. And our guests here, Thomas Albert and Mary Campbell. And as always, our digital producer, Gabrielle Rifkin, the series producer was
David Bell in Berlin. Our move to the city in the 1970s saved his life and career.
Get with Williams. She was very impressed.
From cleaning inside through the Cold War, with unheard of life and new interviews with those who were there.
Each remembers Manchester. That's true.
Locally in Berlin, with me, Francis Whitney, on Radio 4 and BBC Sounds. This Saturday night at 8.
BBC Radio 4 have known about the award-winning comedian's dreams and the devil worshippers who never lie. John Martin investigates the truth behind his own ideas in Given Story.
Have you ever had a dream you saw it might be real? A dream so vivid and familiar that it could almost be a memory. I'm John Meyer, stand-up comedian, writer, and grown adult man, and I've been searching for the truth behind a recurring nightmare I've had since I was a wee boy. The story of goat theft and devil worship, thrash metal and murder, bogeymen, Barney, black mass, and black ops. Welcome to the Devil Zone.
They would sacrifice animals and did all sorts of dark doings. Terrifying.
Totally terrifying.
We can't forget that Ireland is steeped in religious faith.
There was all kinds of Life is good. I'm very happy married and living in London. I have my dream job and an even more comfortable work, so things couldn't be better. Except they don't have language. But they don't feel like nightmares. They feel like memories. It's a pitch black night. A thick fog covers the ground with a kind of ghostly malevolence. I'm hiding in the brambles at the edge of Sharky's feet, and I can see the dim glow of a fire. As the fire crackles, there's a faint chanting, and it's getting louder, but I can't quite make out the words. Whoever or whatever is doing the chanting is moving around the fire, holding flaming torches and wearing white robes that cover them from head to toe. I know these are the White Hoods, but I don't know how I know. I'm terrified that if I make a sound, the White Hoods will get me and throw me in the fire. But no, they see me and they are coming to get me, and I can't get away. And the White Hoods are here now, and they're grabbing me, and there's no one who can save me. And that's when I wake up, covered in sweat, heart beating, with my wife sat up beside me, looking almost as scared as I am. And she says, "Right, that's it. You need to go and see someone about these nightmares."
With anxiety and fear, we want to work towards facing into it rather than facing away from it, which is part of the avoidance that comes with fear.
I'm great at avoidance as well. That's one of my top cards. So that's me talking to psychologist Maura Calvert. Maura thinks I can try and confront these nightmares, which might take some power from them.
With children, of course, they give them such a vivid imagination, and it's quite hard to distinguish between the real and the imagined. The imprints very much on them, and you know, if you're, say, recalling images or memories, or it's maybe upsetting or disturbing when you recall that, or when they replay in mind, then it can be important to look at that in terms of what's causing it.
So here I go, home to the possible gates of hell herself, Newry, County Down, to face my nightmares and hopefully make some sense of them. Or, if nothing else, make a light-hearted documentary from Northern Ireland that's got nothing whatsoever to do with the Troubles. Ireland, known the world over as a place of blarney and specifically the North, a land of saints, scholars, storytellers, strong opinions and wild ideas. Okay, the Troubles were still going on, but I was a kid and sweeties were cheap. Ireland finally had a good football team, and Batman the animated series was on TV. Honestly, Newry in the early 90s was a great place to grow up. Aside from the fact, I may have lived beside the Hellmouth. Sharky's Feet isn't on Google Maps. Streets around it are all there. There's a meadow with 5 Gate Shop. There's my dad's house in Cecil Street. There's my mate John Malone's house back in on.